IVM.
We would like to thank Storytel for sponsoring this show. Storytel is an audiobook platform that lets you hear hundreds of thousands of stories on your mobile, on your PC, wherever you prefer. You can get a great deal by signing up at the URL storytel.com/IVM. So this week I'm going to recommend Watership Down by Richard Adams. It's a quirky book. It's the story of a group of rabbits, how they face the destruction of their den and subsequent escape and journey to their new home. It's funny, it's heartwarming, really cool. It's basically Exodus with rabbits. I think you'll enjoy it if you haven't read it before. And let me tell you a little bit about where you can go get it. Go get it at storytel.com/IVM. And you know what will happen? If you go and sign up on this link, you'll get your first month for just 99 rupees a month instead of $299. That's $200 off. Go get this book right now. You'll really enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Zarina Poonawala, your peak performance coach, life coach, emotional intelligence practitioner, and NLP practitioner. I'm also the founder of Abso Expertise Unique, and my organization constantly aims at building leaders across continents. After having worked with so many dynamic business honchos, entrepreneurs, startups, CEOs, management gurus, parents, and student communities worldwide, I am convinced that every individual has unleashed potential, and all we really need to do is realize it. Watch the magic unfold, enhance quality of life, relationships, and professions. On my show, be ready for some riveting conversations with inspirational people, snippets, stories, and much more. So here I am on this exceptional journey to find empowerment and inspiration anywhere I can. Come join me on this breathtaking path of self-realization, potential maximization, positivity, and most of all, embrace your inner power. You are on your way to empowering yourselves. Welcome to the Empowering Series with Zarina Poonawala. On today's episode, I'm in conversation with an extraordinary entrepreneur whose unique proposition and curation are simply exquisite. Please welcome Sheetal Desai, fragrance curator, chief fragrance storyteller, and founder of Wisdom, a couture fragrance house. Hello, Sheetal. How are you today?
Very well, Zarina. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being on the show, Sheetal. Let's begin with how has 2020 been for you? We've come to the end of the year.
Well, definitely challenging, but very insightful too. And strangely, I have loved every minute of it. Because because I felt like I got a breather. I felt like the world has slowed down, and I can actually think about things through, and it gives you a lot of time to plan, strategize. So I believe that this time I have used very wisely and have absolutely enjoyed everything, right from my work and to my relationships to my workouts, all of that.
How wonderful. It's so nice to know that somebody is kind of holistically made the most of the year, because we all know how 2020 has been for a lot of people, moreover the world.
Absolutely. And I believe that if nothing else, people should wake up and realize that, life is not permanent. So you got to make the most of today. And, whatever it is that you like and you enjoy. And I think that's really what one's focus should be, is how do you derive happiness? And, it could be a small, simple thing like, going for a walk, and you could be happy just with that. So, whatever makes you happy.
Absolutely. And I believe fragrances make you very happy, Sheetal. You've been in the industry of fragrances, that industry, for over 2 decades now, right?
That's right.
And precisely, let's say, 25 years approximately?
Yep. Started my journey in 93.
Wow. Fantastic. And obviously, this is not the most obvious choice as a profession. So tell us about your journey, Sheetal. How did you get into the industry, and how have you managed to start Wisdom in this entire process?
So, very interesting. A lot of things start when you're a child, and the same thing for me. So my father is in the business of essential oils and aroma materials, which are actually raw materials of perfumery.
Right.
And I used to hang out a lot with my father. I would go to his office, kind of work around the oils. This was when I was 9 years old. And I would love to smell and mix things. And that was that. And then as I grew older, he would take me to visit his customers. And, I would just listen in, and it was just interesting. The whole thing was interesting. And I said, okay. But having said that, when I decided to go to the US, I left for the US in 89. And
Okay.
I never thought that I wanted to do perfumery at that point. Because, all this time you were just dabbling away things, and, you're working and you like it. But at the same time, you were never serious because you're a kid, right?
Right.
And then the whole idea that I was very enamored about going abroad, and and wanting to live a life on my own, so that was very exciting. So never thought of anything, and just jumped the bandwagon and went to the US. What lucky me, when I was graduating is when I think it hit me that ideally I should go into the same similar business as my father.
Okay.
And that's really when it all started, because when I was interviewing on campus, and I was in Boston, it was all financial, work. And at that point, I'm like, this is not exciting enough. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm very passionate as a person. I have to love what I do. So, so when I decided to do the fragrance bit, I actually spoke to every CEO of the fragrance industry in the US, and it was a recession time. And I said, I'm just looking for a job, and they're like, "Who are you?" And so it take me 30 calls, to each person to actually call me back, and like, who's
Right.
this calling me? And long story short, I managed to get a few interviews, and my CV was floating all over the fragrance industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it was recession, and I managed to get a job into the industry I wanted, and a really great profile. So I was very fortunate. But I think
Mm-hmm.
hard work and determination did that.
Hard work, determination, and I think probably already knowing that you love this industry or this sort of work so much, and you want it to be a profession, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So again, that's luck, right? A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
don't know what they want,
Mm-hmm.
and they spend half their life exploring as to what really gets them. But it's. I was fortunate that I love fragrances, and the calling was right from day one.
Right. That's fantastic. And how about wisdom? I mean, what is the inspiration behind wisdom when you started off your own?
So, because of the 25 years of experience, I've been in raw materials of perfumery. I have been in perfumery compounding, kind of that kind of business, and where I've worked with other brands. So I've worked across various brands, across various formats, across continents.
Right.
So when you worked so much and you've seen other people do it, it's becomes a dream where you start seeing yourself doing that. I guess it's very challenging. Not everybody from my industry would go into this area,
Right.
but consumer is another ball game. But I felt like I had so much to offer, and and I would go to brands, and I'm like, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And they'd be like, really? So do you think it's that simple? And so I had all these ideas floating around in my head, and
Mhm.
I'm just, I have to do something about it. I can't be sitting back and no one's launching it, so let me try and do something. So and I saw a big gap in the industry. I saw a lot,
Right.
I saw that nobody really offered great fragrances in this country. Everything's a lot more to do with mass. Obviously, numbers are falling there, and I understand that. But, for me, fragrance is, it's like how you make a great cuisine, or how do you make a great dish. For me,
Right.
it's that. And it is about enjoying it. It's an experience. So I'm not selling you a product. I'm actually offering you an experience. So for me
Mm-hmm.
it was, I wanted the Indian consumer to experience that. And that's how I decided that I'm gonna, jump into this journey of coming out with a brand,
Mm-hmm.
and offer as much of my expertise and knowledge, and let the Indian consumer be experiment with their fragrances, experience and experiment with their fragrances. I wanted them to have that platform or that availability.
Sure. It's funny that you mentioned the gap because ironically, you're the first person, at least that I know of, that I'm talking to, and is definitely on my show on the Empowering series. You're the first person from the fragrance industry and, moreover, curator of fragrances. I've never had somebody like that on my show. So that clearly goes to show that it is still a market that is very untapped,
or it's still alien territory for a lot of people. And you probably are a pioneer in the industry when it comes to the Indian markets, right? Sure,
Thank
you
you.
had. I mean, I'm definite about that. I'm 100% sure about that. And you sure have your own set of challenges trying to make sort of bridge that gap, Sheetal. So how do you manage to do that?
Yeah, so it is a huge challenge because the first
Isn't it?
question people will ask you is to why should we buy your fragrance over X brand or a Y brand, right?
Mhm.
And my one thing is, are you wearing a fragrance or are you buying brands? So my whole statement is that people buy brands and not fragrances. And by that, if you ask somebody, let me ask you, what do you wear?
I wear a lot of fragrances, but actually, my favorite one is Kenzo and Issey Miyake.
Okay, so exactly. So now you just mentioned brands.
Brands. Yeah, I don't know what the fragrance is really. I mean, I
So
know one is
that is
really sweet.
exactly what I'm telling.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I just know the brand.
So
You
now,
know.
if whoever I ask will say a brand will never tell me which fragrance they're wearing. I'm asking,
Mm.
like, how many variants or how many fragrances are in each of these brands?
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. But nobody remembers the name. They just know the brand. So here
Right.
is what I'm trying to say, that you need to wear a fragrance and not a
Mm-hmm.
brand. And fragrances are very unique. They are a composition of various materials. And the moment you put them on your skin, they
Mm-hmm.
start reacting differently to different people. So this is where I'm carving out my niche, where I'm different from the brands that we're talking about, which are
Right.
produced in very large quantities around the world, distributed,
Mm-hmm.
and you find them, of course, in duty free. And I think this is the perfect time because nobody's flying as much, so hopefully
Mm-hmm.
they give an Indian
You
brand.
know, you've just got me curious. Now, obviously, when you asked me, my response was the brand. So, how would I be able to tell a fragrance, Sheetal? I mean, how am I supposed to describe a fragrance to you if I'm talking about something that I personally wear?
Okay, so basically, I don't want to get too technical.
Yeah, but a
Fragrance,
little bit. This is
yeah,
interesting, you know?
yeah. So fragrances have a family, they have a
Right,
genealogy. So they fall into, say, florals. Within florals, they have subfamilies with, say, white florals or red florals, or, a mixed level of florals, green florals, depending on the notes that are there.
right,
Then there comes the fruity one. Then within fruity, also you have various kinds of fruits, whether it's pineapples, berries, etc. Right? Then
right.
go into citruses. So
Mm-hmm.
citrus are also different kinds of citruses. You have your regular, orange, lemon, lime, mandarin. Then you have bergamot. You have yuzu. So different kind of notes again in that area.
Right.
So, like this, we have a family in the fragrance industry, and it's
Mm-hmm.
basically a genealogy of fragrances. And that's how you describe fragrances, that, hey, I'm wearing a green floral fragrance, or am I wearing a white floral,
Wow.
and this is the variant. So, within your Issey Miyake, which one, Lord the Issey, say, for example, if that's
Mm-hmm.
what you're wearing. So, you talk about that fragrance, Lord the Issey, then Issey Miyake.
Mm-hmm. Right,
So
right.
this is how we in the fragrance business describe fragrances, and that's, we have a language which is called a jargon. The
Mm-hmm.
jargon of fragrances, and very few people or consumers are exposed to it. It's, again, our industry is very tight, very niche. So nobody really knows how
Yeah.
to educate the consumer. So the whole idea is for me to come into this area is to educate the consumer,
Mm-hmm.
and that I'm doing it through my various fragrances, through my layering of fragrances, and I'm trying to impart as much knowledge as I have. And I also believe that the consumer must experience it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to experiment. I don't know what your body composition is like, and
Right.
everybody is unique. So the moment you spray a fragrance on you, it is going to be reacting to you differently than it would to me. So, I've seen many a times people going and smelling a fragrance on someone and saying, oh, I love that, and I
Right.
want to buy it. And then they go buy it, and then they realize that it does not smell the same.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So it's because of your body composition. It's what you
Mm-hmm.
eat, where you live, what's your physical activity, how much you sweat. There's so many attributes to it.
Wow.
And that's how, when you put it on the skin, it's a whole different ball game. So you have to find your fragrance. It's
Mm-hmm.
your fragrance, and you've got to find it. It's like a journey.
Hmm. This is so fascinating. I mean, I'd never thought of fragrance this deeply, and this is so insightful. I mean, I think most people depend entirely on olfaction, their sense of smell to be able to choose a fragrance. Like I just said, these are the brands that I use. And you correctly pointed out that you're talking about the brands and not the fragrance itself, right? But
Exactly.
I think it is beyond your olfactory senses from what you seem to be saying at this point, Sheetal. Does it involve your other senses as well? Do you require to actively use other senses while choosing a fragrance?
No, not necessary. Because in fact, the most important and the only thing that really works over here is your olfactory. And I'll tell you
Mm-hmm.
why.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the fragrance and the bottle looks appealing, the presentation looks appealing, you buy based on that. And then
Right.
you use it. And this, again, it doesn't smell as great, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I have bought from duty free, and I'm sure many people have, or,
Right.
you land up, you've got fragrances all over you and you get confused, and then you buy something either based on what the salesperson is telling you, or the bottle or the packaging, or for that moment you buy a fragrance and you say, this smells good, but then after some time it changes and it evolves, and it does not suit your skin as well as it did on the top note the moment
Mm-hmm.
you sprayed it. So again, fragrance is constant, it changes over a period of time. So you have the top note, the heart note, and the base note. So
Mm-hmm.
the top note can smell really great, but by the time it reaches the heart, and on your skin, it may not smell as great. And then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, we know many a times that, when it comes to the fragrance lasting, people are constantly complaining how fragrances don't last.
Right.
Have you heard that?
Yes.
And that again is based on your skin, the way the fragrance is designed. The more the base, the longer the fragrance will last. So
Mm-hmm.
it's how the fragrance is, designed, formulated. It is based on your skin. It is based on the concentration of the fragrance. So the
Right.
amount of perfume in a bottle is what matters also. So a lot of people find that, oh my God, it's so cheap, the EDTs. But if you
Mm-hmm.
buy the EDPs, which is Eau de Parfum, is
Mm-hmm.
far more expensive. And there is a reason behind that. And then there is Parfum, which is even more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So these are, the reason for lasting or performance of a fragrance is based on many factors.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, like you've just mentioned, that it is quite olfactory, but then there is this other aspect of, using senses in some way or the other while choosing a fragrance, right? I'm very curious to know if, suppose, you have somebody coming to you and saying, "Hey, Sheetal, I would like to sort of create my own fragrance or know what my fragrance really is." What is the process of curation?
All right. So what happens is first we understand the personality of the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
What they are, what are their activities, what they like to do. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one aspect of the understanding. Then the second aspect is what kind of notes do they like? Because there is an amount of, their input that's required because they do like certain notes. Say for example, I like a lot of white florals. So it's
Mm-hmm.
important to incorporate white florals. If I go and incorporate something completely different and the person is, averse to it, it's not going to work, right? So
Absolutely.
you've got to include some of those notes, but then around there, then we understand what is it that they'll, what could suit their skin. So we have to do, it's a trial and error process like anything else in this world.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to, then we keeping the personality and the profiling of the fragrance that they like or they used to, we
Mm-hmm.
we take that as a starting point and we start creating the fragrance around it. So say for example, I would say, okay, I love white florals, but I want to add some maybe musk or some, maybe a spice or a touch of food. Depends on, what the person is really all about. So,
Right.
when are they going to wear it? Do they want it more for a night or do they want it more for a daytime? How do they want it? Do they just want one signature fragrance that they can wear throughout? Or
Mm-hmm.
do they want, or do we think that they should wear a fragrance which is changing over a period of time? Or we have something that's called linear fragrances. That means
Mm-hmm.
the note remains the same throughout and it doesn't change. So that,
Okay.
it could be different things. So based on that, that's how we create. And then we send them sample and they try it on. And only once they like it, do they
Mm-hmm.
give a couple of options, and whichever option they finalize on, then
Mm-hmm.
based on that, that's how we finalize on the formulation.
All right. And when they finalize something like that, do they have to, I mean, they become your retainers and they constantly keep coming in, buying their signature
That,
fragrance, and
that,
you already have it created for them?
yeah, exactly,
Wow.
exactly. They just give you your repeat order or the
Mm-hmm.
number that they're buying, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's how it works.
Wow, that's quite an interesting process. I pretty much would like to indulge myself, probably whenever it's possible.
More
This
than that.
sounds very interesting. How about the fact that stereotypically anything to do with perfumes or fragrances is usually a personal application conversation. It's about you, it's about what you're applying. But do you have any, thoughts on how fragrances can enhance spaces as well?
Absolutely. So I believe that your space is an extension of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important to realize, that the aromas that are around your house, right? So for example, especially in your homes, if you think about it, and today all of us are sitting at home for such a long periods of time.
Right.
And I believe that depending on your aesthetics, what does your home look like. I see loads of people spending crores of rupees on making a house. The home is all about senses, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
about the sense of touch, it's about the sense of hear, the sense of sight. So these three senses are always involved while doing the interiors, but the
Right.
most neglected sense is the sense of smell. And people don't think about how they're going to make the house smell. So I mean, just imagine you have this gorgeous house which is like, for example, it's a zen look,
Mm-hmm.
and the smell in the house is, it's of, say for example, biryani, so, or something like that.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
I'm just giving you throwing out an idea, right? So
Mm-hmm.
see, I'm saying, wouldn't you want your all your senses to be in sync? You walk into your home and it gives you exactly that same, whether it's a sense of whether you're smelling it or whether you're looking at it or whether you're listening to the music in the background. Shouldn't it all be in sync? A complete a sensorial experience is what I am saying, is how one needs to have in the house. So
Right.
I'm giving you an example. If you go to the mountains and it is beautiful out there, it's green. Like my memory of going to a mountain area is the Nilgiris, right? Where the
Mm-hmm.
Nilgiris. You walk in there and it's beautiful. The weather's great. It's green all over. And then there is the smell of Nilgiri in the air. The crisp green, herbal scent of eucalyptus,
Right.
and you just feel like, wow, completely refreshed instantly right there, that you're on vacation and this is great.
Hmm. Hmm.
So the same way as you walk into your house and you spend so much money in making your house so gorgeous, the sense of smell can impact you, tremendously. It's actually, 75% of our emotions are impacted by the sense of smell and not any of the other senses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because it's closest to the brain where our reactions are. So the way I look at it, it is the most neglected sense of all our senses, and it's something that we should all look at incorporating in our day-to-day lives. And today, especially when we are all working from home and we all are like, work from home essentials, we have everything going on, we have our a designated spot where we are sitting
Mm-hmm.
and we are working. But imagine you're constantly getting distracted by the food aromas, or somebody coming and doing the katka or something,
Yeah.
and so you want to walk into your professional zone and you come there and you're like, okay, you have this signature scent. So say for example, you're working for Infosys,
Mm-hmm.
and you walk in and every employee of that company has that smell, means they're instantly ready to start working because it's
Hmm.
on your mind. You know what I'm saying? It unconsciously plays on your mind.
That's again a very fascinating perspective. Not something that I have come across, but yes, I mean, just creating that energy through smell and bringing that consciousness of where you are and what you're meant to do. Like you're on a holiday, so you kind of smelling in that eucalyptus and feeling like, hey, it's vacation time. So you go to office and this is it. This is work time. I've reached my office space. Something like
Exactly.
that. Hmm.
Exactly.
Do you have any recommendations as such? Of course, I'm not talking about personal fragrances. That obviously is a very curated process. But do you think in spaces there could be any recommendations that work well? Like you mentioned that Zen space, and you want to create a nice fragrance for a Zen space. So, what should be that top note or something that definitely should be present
So,
in that chemistry?
we have a collection called Pepper and Patchouli,
Mm-hmm.
and that exactly fits in where we have a lot of spice notes. So we have
Mm-hmm.
different kinds of pepper notes in it, combined with a lot of woody notes of patchouli and earthy notes. So when these notes come together, it actually is very, very unique. The scent is very unique, and it's more of the woods and the earth tone that puts together. And you can walk in, and the whole aroma or the scent would just transport you instantly to another place. Why do we have essential oils? Let's talk about essential oils. They say lavender oil is calming. That's because
Yeah.
these are all aromas. And the same thing is our fragrances. We have a lot of the essential oils incorporated in our fragrances.
Right. Right.
And that's the difference is, why do we do fragrances and not essential oils? Say, for example, essential oils by nature are very volatile. So you may keep an essential oil, but it will disappear very quickly. It's the
Hmm.
fragrance that stays. So, because fragrance is a composition of essential oils, aroma materials, and some solvents that hold everything together and to give you the best impactful proposition, the sense of smell. So,
Right.
if I just have only one essential oil and I put a lavender oil and I put it in a product, eventually you're going to tell me I can't smell anything.
Hmm.
So you can't.
Right.
If something smells for a very long period of time, it's usually not an essential oil. It's more of a fragrance.
Okay, that's enlightening, because obviously people do understand the importance of essential oils. Moreover, now, because we have gotten used to spas, and we've gotten used to going and taking therapy, and also creating an ambiance at homes once in a while. So they understand essential oils, but nobody really uses it for the purpose it should be used. And I think similar to fragrances, you're using it for the brand, like you earlier mentioned, and then you're not really focusing on the fact that it talks a lot about your personality, whether it suits you or not, whether it's reacting with your skin a certain way or not, and how it's working for you. So maybe the space has a similar concept in that sense of things.
Yeah. So see, essential oils are very, very essential. So
I
and
like that. That
yeah,
is, yeah, I like the emphasis there.
so they are nothing but they're natural products, raw materials that are derived, and then and they work beautifully, no doubt. But they
Hmm.
need, you can, of course, in an oil burner, which is sitting around and constantly burning, that will work very well.
Hmm.
You apply it in a massage oil, it works. But if you want it lingering in the air, it's a little difficult to have that. So fragrances are no different. They are also, like I said, they will give you a great feeling, a sense of calmness, a sense of whatever it is that you want. Somebody wants it more zesty, they want to be pepped up for the day, so you can have a citrus kind of a scent. They say a lemongrass is very calming,
Hmm.
or peppy. I don't know. For me, lemongrass is abused. So I usually stay away from lemongrass because I just find it, I think instantly of washrooms nowadays because you find them everywhere.
Oh
So
my God, you just changed my mind about lemongrass now.
go to the Palladium Mall and go into the washrooms and you're going to see that.
No, I get what you're saying. I completely do. But now I'm never going to think of lemongrass the same again. Thanks
Yeah,
to
because
you.
people have abused it. It's just from the spa, it has gone to every nook and corner, and
Yeah.
there are so many beautiful oils out there, which people haven't explored. But what happens? It's a mindset. People
Hmm.
are used to a certain tone, a comfort level, and everybody just jumps that bandwagon. Very few people want to explore and adventure around.
Hmm.
And those are limited in number. So I understand that, because when you don't know something and it's Greek and Latin, you might as well do something that is a known devil.
Right. Right.
So I think the reaction to fragrance is also quite similar in that way.
Okay.
And hence the abuse of lemongrass.
Okay. I've got that loud and clear, and I am not going to look at that lemongrass bit again ever the same way. But
No, maybe you'll start looking at other oils.
yeah, maybe. But now I think everything I'm going to think of lemongrass, I will definitely sort of relate it to you in some way and be like, no, this is not a fragrance. It's abused. That's what I'm going to think about.
Yeah.
So we've talked about all these fragrances and all the things that you do, very insightful. And then your entire journey, obviously, it's not the most talked about industry, especially as a fragrance curator. So, what are the peaks and valleys you've touched as an entrepreneur?
Okay. So it's a short journey. Yet it just started like I quit my job in 2018
Mm-hmm.
from being the director of the company, and I said I'm going to start something that this is what I'm going to do. And so obviously in December 2019, it took me like a year plus to get everything going, and December 2019 is when I actually launched my products.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a difficult journey in the sense, like, I wanted to take the route of, having touch points such as, more on the retail side, and other than online, because online, I feel like, at that time I was like, I'm not ready for it, let me just try and see what I was doing, an exhibition route through
Mm-hmm.
various places. And I had just started, it was 3 months into it when COVID hit.
Okay.
And so I couldn't do anything about it. Obviously, I had to step back and sit down and re-strategize.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the online has also been very interesting. So, it took us a couple of months to get everything ready, to be ready for online and do all of that. So an entrepreneur's journey, in the last 1 year that I've seen right from the conceptualizing to till now, it's not easy. It's not simple. It's really challenging. The only thing that can keep you going is your dream. You have to see that if this is your dream and this is what really calls for you, and you have to keep at it, you have to find ways. So that does not mean that you're not agile. You've got to be agile in given circumstances. And today, if at all, the one thing we all have realized, that if you don't change the way you do things, things
Mm-hmm.
are going to go really out of control, whether it is in the humanity purpose, environmental purpose, whichever, whatever you talk about, we
Sure.
have to change internally. So when I look at my entrepreneurship, the way I wanted to do things, I had to change the whole way I looked at things. And I said, okay, let's go online. Let's find a way. How can I make this exciting and interesting for people online to buy fragrances? Because fragrances you have to smell, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here I am, where I curated my fragrances in such a way that it becomes an experimental box.
Right.
So it's a curation box. So you are the curator of your own fragrance, not me.
Hmm.
I will give you tools and you will make your own fragrance. So I have sets, or I have miniature boxes where I
Mm-hmm.
give you a set of three in each, and where I tell you that each fragrance in there is different from the other.
Mm-hmm.
You use it as it is, or you can blend it with a couple of them in the proportion you want.
Right.
So what happens in that? It's exciting and interesting for a consumer to go try something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So it's something, it's do it yourself kind of a thing. But at the
Right.
same time, if you don't want to, also you have the choice of not doing that. The fragrances are designed in such a way that you can wear them in the day, and some are for the evening. And when you mix the two, also they become beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea was to capture, you have to become innovative. So
Right.
as an entrepreneur, you have to be agile, you have to be innovative, you have to adapt to today's times. You can't be stuck like, this is what I want to do, and now, I got to wait for that. You can't wait. You have to keep at it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the way I look at. This has been my journey in this 1 year, where I have seen myself adapting to situations I never thought I would. So
You mentioned something about dreams, and I personally believe dreams are only as real as the people who dream it. So you are a real dreamer because you know how to make them come true, and that's fantastic. That's
thank,
amazing.
thank
Now, I'd love to know, Sheetal, is there any belief that you swear by?
absolutely. So I believe in love what you do what you love. That's my
Hmm.
mantra. If you don't
Fantastic.
love what you do, you're not going to do a great job. And you have to be passionate. Then work just becomes, it's a hobby. For me, I
Hmm.
don't think of work as work. I think of it as a hobby. So the challenges that come through also are just like speed breakers. You don't think of it as the end of the world. You don't think of it, I mean, COVID hit me, and when I just started, and I just, okay, and I look at it more positively, because I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do out of this. And trust me, I think I worked harder during COVID times, though I was not listed online. But it gave me a lot of thought process. It gave me time. It gave me, I think it just brought a lot of, calmness also at the same time.
Hmm.
Instead of being in the rat race, trying to think how you can be different, how can you can be innovative. So that was what happened to me.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. And any words of wisdom for our listeners? Let's say potential fragrance buyers, if at all. What would your words of wisdom be for them?
So for potential buyers, I would say, you know, you are the best person who knows what works for you as a fragrance. Nobody can tell you what will work and what won't. You're not right, you're not wrong. What you like is what you should buy, is how I look at it. Look at fragrances as an experience. Don't look at it as a product that you're buying. And look at it as a journey and finding your own scent. So, and that for me is very essential, that you have to experiment the fragrances and not just, buy because you're influenced by everybody who's using it.
Wonderful. And what about maybe some pearls of wisdom also for entrepreneurs out there?
So exactly what I said to now, the one thing we know that, today's times is one doesn't know what happens tomorrow.
Right.
Having said that, don't ever give up. Be agile. And it's important to know when to cut your losses and when not to give up, of course. And only you can tell, I believe that, we all have an inner voice and we need to connect with ourselves and follow our beliefs. I have seen many people give hundreds of advice, and that can confuse somebody. And you have to ask yourself, what is it that you really want? Sure, you can listen to people's opinions, but if you follow everybody who gives an opinion, you're not going to land up anywhere. So you have to, it's your journey, and you have to find what really calls upon you. So I believe that your gut, your inner voice is what's going to guide you.
That is some sage advice there. And lastly, Sheetal, what empowers you?
Well, I think, different things, Zarina, empowers me at different points and different times. It's not just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously my work is numero uno. I worship my work. So that's very important. Success would empower me. But that's not just it. Hard work, interaction, knowledge, relationships, everything. Each area of your life can empower you in different ways. So
Mm-hmm.
it depends on the moment. It depends on what phase of life you are in. And so today success will empower me. Tomorrow if I'm on a holiday, it'll be something else. If you're trying to become fit and you achieve your goals of fitness, that empowers you. So I believe that different things can empower you at this, it depends on what you want as an individual.
And that's quite perspective again. Sheetal, this was, I think, one of the most insightful conversations I've had, because I don't think we have had this kind of education on fragrances ever. And I personally haven't had the opportunity to know so much about fragrances. So thank you so much for enlightening us with the information, sharing such insightful thoughts, and also empowering us to believe that we must dream big and we must follow our dreams and we must love what we do, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. But thank you so much for the opportunity. And, I really hope that I can add some value in this world. So,
I'm sure you already are.
yeah, and it's been great talking to you.
Great talking to you as well, Sheetal. Also, how do people reach out to you? And if we want to, say, connect with you for a fragrance, how do we connect with you?
We are on Instagram by Wisdom Fine Fragrances. We have a website with wisdomfragrances.com. And yeah, I think that's good enough. Or anyone wants to email us, it's contact@wisdombysd.com.
Wonderful. Thank you once again, Sheetal. It was a pleasure having you on the show. And you have a good new year then.
You too. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
If you liked this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, Storytel and the Whole Truth Foods. Thank you for supporting us. We have a new show out this week, Candid Kannan with Siddharth Kannan. Sid K is a well-known RJ. He has an incredible show with some of the most amazing Bollywood celebrities. As part of the first week's episode, we're releasing 5 episodes at one time, so you can get your fill of Sid. You can hear him talk to Varun Dhawan, Anil Kapoor, Anurag Kashyap, Bhumi Pednekar, and a whole lot more. This week on the Edges and Sledges podcast with Varun DJ and Ashwin, hear them talk about the historic victory that India achieved at Gaba. Maruk Inayat had an amazing talk with Gul Panag. They spoke about the farmer protests and why Bollywood celebs are acting the way that they are. And finally, Shunya 1 is back this week. Sheila Aditya and me talked to Anirudh Singla from Pepper Content. We have a great lineup of guests coming up in the coming weeks, including Deepak Abid, the co-founder of India Gold. Definitely check that out. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Namaskar, dear friends. My name is Ashish Vidyarthi. Life, as you know, is a journey. And you and I, travelers, how can we celebrate this travel? I have a podcast for you, Begin the Journey. I share stories and moments from my life. Do tune in every Monday and Thursday to listen to my podcast on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from. Cheers.